Hi, this is Mary Lou Van Houten, co-host and producer of Gadsden Rising on FreedomizerRadio.com. Join host Libby Gadsen and me every Monday through Thursday from 4:30 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time as we talk with cutting-edge guests about the truth of a variety of topics. We are 100% free speech. Gadsden Rising on Freedomizer Radio, because you can handle the truth. Hi, Libby.
Well, hello, Mary Lou, and welcome everybody to Gadsden Rising. And I'm Libby Gadsen, and today's our special guest is Brian Kelly and Seraph, and Mary Lou Van Houten is our co-host and producer. And Mary Lou, please tell the audience about our guest today.
Brian is the co-author of the American Kabuki blog. He's been helping to spread the message of the One People's Public Trust, otherwise known as the OPPT, since the movement became public on December 26, 2012. Along with Lisa Harrison, Chris Hales, and Bob Wright, he hosts the OPPT-IN blog talk radio show on Freedom Reigns on Monday nights at 1 p.m. Pacific, as well as the Collective Imagination show on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific to share the latest updates and developments of the One People's Public Trust. Thank y'all so much for coming on the show. It's great to have y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks.
And I see you have your own show as well, Brian, Freedom Reigns.
Well, Freedom Reigns, we took over from Santos Bonacci a few weeks ago. We had over 106,000 people live on our first debut, and we're up over about 275,000 live people and into the millions, into the archives, which airs every Monday night. We're actually doing one tonight, and it starts at 4 o'clock. Yeah, so it's pretty exciting.
Wow.
Yeah, very. And where is it coming out of? California or?
Well, we're all over the place. We have, for as far as the people that are on every week, I'm in San Diego. Lisa Harrison is out in Australia. Chris Hales is in the UK, and then Bob is in Philadelphia, and Seraph is Minnesota. Seraph, where you at, my man? Minnesota. Minnesota. So we're all over the map. So it's Mondays for some of us, Tuesdays for others. So it's interesting when we have to talk offline because we have to coordinate all of our time schedules. But it's been a blast.
Yeah, we did the same thing because Libby's over in Europe and I'm in Atlanta, and y'all are you're in California, Brian, and so Seraph's in the Midwest. So
yeah, I know you were different.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of figured you were from Atlanta because I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, and I can spot a southern accent a mile away, and it didn't take long to spot that one.
I didn't realize how southern I sounded until I got on the radio.
All right.
It's more fun. We have boring accents out here in California, so.
Well, it sounds like you have a variety of accents, Australian, and that's quite an interesting accent too.
It's an eclectic group.
And how did you all get together?
So, wow, that's a pretty loaded question because it's a really long story. Books will be written about it someday. But we'll give you the Cliff Notes version. Why don't we start there?
Yeah, well, we like long stories. It's okay.
Well, we have an hour and a half tonight, right?
That's right.
Exactly.
Well, Seraph and I both like to talk, so we could run this 3 hours if we needed to, but we'll do our best
to
to
dial
give
it back a little bit myself right now. So
we'll go back and forth, my man, because we're both working toward the same cause. The One People's Public Trust. If you Google it today and you put quotations around it to get rid of all the other junk that'll come up when you all the other things that have one or people's or public or trust, comes out at 1.23 million responses, websites to go to in less than a second. So it goes to show how big the movement is. The trustees came together. Heather Ann Tucci-Giroff is one of the trustees of One People's Public Trust. She was a bar licensed attorney for 20 years and had a deep background in working in banking and a lot of many years of experience in working in UCC law. And throughout those years of being in that industry and rubbing shoulders amidst all the corruption that we all know has plagued the banking and financial and judicial parts of the world, not just this country, she got sick of it, and she realized that she could either keep staying in it, or she could dedicate her life to helping to create a solution. So back during, I think it was the end of 2009, she decided to let her home go into foreclosure so she could track the corruption via the paper and the money back to the source, the sources that were creating it. And she wrote up a report about it called the Paradigm Report, and it's all over the internet to be read. But during the course of that research, the corruption that was uncovered was so thick, and there was so much of it, that the determination that was made was that the only way to fix it was to cancel out the systems that created it from the root, or from the prime of their creation. So essentially what they did was they used Heather's knowledge of law and of the UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code, to go in and back engineer the systems that were created for deception to turn those very systems back onto the perpetrators and the creators that developed them to control and manipulate the masses, the world, really. And so they went in and they did a set of UCC filings that essentially foreclosed on the United Nations, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the Hague, the BIS, or the Bank for International Settlements, and the Holy See, and et al., and all corporations, really. And so the way that the UCC law is structured is that any claim that is made, in order for it to stand as law, as registered, or to be rejected, it has to be rebutted. So when a claim is made and it goes unrebutted, that means it stands as law. And so these particular set of UCC filings were unrebutted because they're unrebuttable. So that's kind of where the whole thing started. So throughout the course of 2012, the One People's Public Trust, was formed, and we're working behind the scenes to essentially take care of all the things that they needed to take care of in the background in order for their work and everything that they did with the UCC to be made public, and to basically unravel all of the corruption and bring that out into the light. So we were contacted, myself, American Kabuki, and a couple others, on December 26th because we put out on the blogs, we were told by Heather during a series of emails that went back and forth that a blog post that we put out with an interview with an insider that I actually did was able to expose some agendas of some supposed good guys that were working on the good guy side to try to bring about all this change. It exposed their greedy agendas, because really when you trace this back to the source, there's been a resistance movement that's been playing out behind the scenes for a very long time. Some can trace it back to the very early 1900s, after the Federal Reserve was formed.
Wow.
And so, when all this stuff came out to the forefront, all of a sudden a lot of information started rolling out. And when we got into contact with Heather, we started, blogging these UCC filings, and it was overnight that we went from a few people knowing about it in the public eye to now, this all started on the 26th of December. If you were to Google One People's Public Trust, you might get 1,000 responses. Now it's up over 1 million, and it's only been just a little over 2 months. I mean, I'm on 5 radio interviews this week alone. Wow. Another one later today. So that's where we're at. Seraph got involved about a month ago, and he's part of the radio team, and that's why I invited him to be here on the call with us, because he got a a much more extensive understanding of the background of the logistics of the legal aspect of all these things, because he's been involved in that part of the process longer than I have.
Wow.
Okay. And so how did you start in the process, Sarah?
It was, you know how sometimes when you're online a lot, you find yourself involved in something, and then you look back and say, well, how did I even get connected to this?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how it happened. I don't remember to this day how I came across all of this, but when I started researching it, I go from a premise that I don't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
And once I establish that in my mind, then whenever somebody brings something to me and puts it on in front of me to look at the data, I automatically suspend any disbelief. Because the only way I can say, well, that's not true or that's not right, I would have to know that. And if I choose to not know anything, then that means I have to research it in order to at least get an understanding of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also, I've been notorious in my life for being able to get all the way to the horse's mouth whenever somebody brings something up. So I didn't stop searching and looking until I had a 2.5-hour conversation with Heather.
Wow.
So once I got to that point, I had already pretty much convinced myself that, yes, this is at the very least legitimate. And then after a 2.5-hour conversation with Heather and realizing that this wasn't just about paperwork, it wasn't just about the UCC, this has a multidimensional aspect that is more far-reaching than I even know at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I call Heather my little sister. We're like brother and sister now. And when somebody, like, she was on a radio talk show and there was a person who was basically harassing her on the call, and I felt like flying in and choking her out because that's just who I am. I took the name Seraph. That's my actual name. I technically changed my name to Seraph GL less than a month ago, and it had everything to do with the One People's Public Trust. And Seraph is not technically my first name. Seraph is a title, not of nobility, but like my job, like lieutenant or sergeant or plumber or firefighter. It's the name of an individual seraphim, which is an angelic being that is a guardian. And I'm Seraph, guardian of that which matters most. And what matters most to me is freedom. Everything emanates from that. If you're not free, then you really can't do anything. The sad part about our nation in America is we have a false sense of freedom. It doesn't exist at all. We're actually more enslaved than a lot of countries that we call third world. And it's based on that there's no slave like the one that doesn't know they've got shackles.
Oh, absolutely.
And also coming from my ethnic background being that of so-called black African Americans, if you will. I don't like either title, but because that's governmental as well. But that's a whole other talk show. But coming from that place alone, I understand the governmental reach of how they can enslave you. And they started from birth. And it just keeps going. And the sad part about the enslavement in our country of America is the ones erroneously known as white people. A lot of them are under the impression that they don't know slavery. They have no concept of it. But each human being born in the country of the United States of America is a slave at birth. And we are used like ever-ready batteries. They use us and they suck up our potential energy from birth, and then they suck our energy all the way through life. And everything about it is done via the UCC. So
now,
I had my home. I had my home
tell us
workload.
what the UCC is.
I'm sorry.
What was the question?
For our audience, Seraph, tell us what the UCC is.
Well, the UCC is titled the Uniform Commercial Code. The UCC was established so that every nation, country, state on the planet would have a uniform way of dealing with each other in commerce. That way, you can't deal with China differently than you deal with India, differently than you deal with Botswana land. You have to deal with all of them in commerce the same way. So that system was designed so that whatever is done uniformly. Kind of like how you go to McDonald's anywhere in the world, it all tastes the same.
Right. Yeah.
It's set up that way. Okay. Now, the interesting thing about it is, once it was found out that every government worldwide, counties, cities, towns, everything involved is a corporation. And it can be looked up on Dun and Bradstreet. It's an actual for-profit corporation. Once that was established, then we know that corporations are only created in commerce. There's no other reason to have a corporation unless you're trying to make some money in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
And once the UCC was found to be the root entity that all things are done through, and all things meaning you can't find a thing that occurs in this world that's not connected directly to the UCC. And uniform also can stand for universal, and that's where the multidimensional part of it comes, because it has been shown that the UCC is the pattern used universally. And our UCC that we use in America and they use in London and England and everywhere in the world is a microcosm of the universal pattern, which basically means those systems are not corrupt in and of themselves. They are corrupted by those who seek to enslave others via that system.
Yeah, and that's actually part of the reason why the UCC filings, which can be found directly on the UCC, they stand unrebutted, because if the governments were to try and rebut them, it would be self-admission that they are not in fact governments, but they are set up as corporations, which is really a big part of, if you really try to pull the whole thing apart, you realize, well, if the government's a corporation, United States of America Corporation, all the other, if you go to Australia, the Commonwealth of Australia, if you look that up, you find that the Commonwealth of Australia is registered as a corporation in Washington, D.C. How does that make any sense? So has anybody ever heard of a corporation having citizens?
No.
No, corporations have employees. They have assets. They have, it's all about commerce. It's all about the books. So that's how the whole thing was able to become unraveled, because right now, the people that are following this, and we're into the millions now. Those that are trying to find fault are saying, well, if the Federal Reserve and the International Monetary Fund and the Bank of International Settlements and the United States of America Corporation are foreclosed, why do we not know about it yet? Well, that's simply because one of the last strongholds of control that the power elite still retain is that of the mass media. And so it's akin to the analogy we like to use. And when you unplug something from the wall, there's those few moments where the electricity that's still in the cord is still powering the light or whatever it might be. Or when your car runs out of gas, it can run on fumes for a little bit longer. Well, what's going on right now is the plug's been pulled from the wall, the car's out of gas, We're just waiting for it to reach that moment where the juice is gone. And it's at that moment where it comes out into the open and it explodes onto the scene, and it's out there for everybody to know. And so what we're doing right now is we're pushing this information out grassroots through calls like this one that we're on. I mean, I did an interview with a radio station out of Italy the other day. I've done one in the Netherlands. I mean, we got people contacting us from all around the world that want this information because you can't get it on mainstream media yet. Max Kaiser Max Kaiser from the Kaiser Report, I believe he's on Fox News. I can't remember his network. He was the first mainstream outlet to make mention of the UCC filings causing global ripples.
I saw that.
That's the UCC filings that One People's Public Trust did. So we're pushing it grassroots as much as we can right now because it gives us something to do, and we're very passionate about it. But we don't expect it to take months on end or years on end for this to break out of the open. We all believe that moment is coming, and it's coming in the very near future where this whole thing explodes and there's no denying it anymore. It's just out, and it just is. That's what we're all looking forward to, for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's the information is out there, and it's just a matter of continually getting it out there and superimposing ourselves over the mass media, which is, I think, our biggest task. Would you agree, guys?
Yes, totally. If I may interject one piece of comment that I felt like I should say this, and that is, let's look at history, true history, absolute data, and then we understand what both of these two sentences I'm going to say really mean. If you look at, if you're a Christian, or even if you're not, if you just read certain documents, in Ephesians 6 and 12, and I'm quoting from the King James Version of the Bible, it says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." And then you look at the next sentence, which says, "The pen is mightier than the sword." And that was coined by Edward Bulwer Lytton. Now, those two sentences sum up the UCC and how it's been used against us since the beginning of time, if you will. Because every nation has been built by the people who are flesh and blood. But we're not fighting against people. We're fighting against the principalities, against those powers that were the rulers of the darkness of this world. And they make it spooky in the Bible with a lot of, spooky sounding stuff. But it's really not spooky at all. There's nothing scary about it, really. If you think about it, documents, paperwork is what held us captive. And all Heather and the trustees did was go inside that beast and implode it from inside without having to swing a sword. And the reason why it worked was because you can't live a fiction, create a fiction, and put everybody underneath that fiction. And then when you go inside that fiction and say, "Okay, fiction, say who you are, who you be, who be you." There's no way you can say who you are without exposing who you are.
And both of you have mentioned Heather a few times. What's Heather's or can you tell us how we can reach Heather? Maybe we'd like to have her on the show.
That's like saying I want to book the president to come at my school's high school graduation.
Okay.
Right. And it's not like she doesn't see herself in any kind of lofty position. She's just so busy and so hard to get a hold of. Now, we can both approach her and say, "Look, they'd like to put you on the show." And if she finds the time to do it, she will do it because she's done radio. It's just as hard. At this point, it may have been easier a month ago, But at this point, you're getting pretty much as close to the flame as you can get.
Yeah, Seraph makes a good point. I mean, Heather's one of those kinds of people. She doesn't want any glory, any fame. She doesn't need a medal of honor. She felt that she had an opportunity to do something to help out, and so she doesn't want any extra special attention or glory. She's just, what Heather's doing right now behind the scenes is she's taking care of a lot of things to make all of this come out into the open. So, whereas you could probably Skype Seraph or I most any time of the day, and we'll probably get right back to you. But she's just so busy with making this a reality that her time is pretty limited.
Oh, that's cool. We're going to have to take a commercial break, but when we get back, I want to talk about the American Kabuki blog and also get back to corporations and the way that they're operating right now over the world. There's things I think that our audience needs to understand better about the fact that corporations no longer have employees, they have slaves. So we'll be right back. This is Gadsden Rising. I'm Libby Gadsen with Mary Lou Van Houten, our co-host and producer, and our special guest today is Brian Kelly and Seraph. We'll be right back.
We are so pleased to announce ESP Botanicals is now sponsoring Freedomizer Radio. They have a bath and body line of products made for keeping your skin beautiful and healthy, but it's also for psoriasis, eczema, rosacea, and dermatitis treatment. They are meticulously prepared skincare products made from the best botanicals available, committed to buying only from the growers when they can, and using the highest quality cold-pressed oils, botanical organic additives, the best steam-expressed essential oils, and the least processed carrier oils that are available in today's marketplace. Pamper yourself or someone special in your life. Give the gift of beautiful, glowing skin. ESPBotanicals.com. Thank you so much for supporting us at Freedomizer Radio.
Hello again, Freedomist Proof is here, and I want to talk to you about a brand new soda maker called SodaStream. Now, the Proof House has had SodaStream for about a year, and we love the thing. We use it quite often. With SodaStream, you can have fresh-made soda in seconds. One of the big things we like about it is that there's no high-fructose corn syrup and no aspartame. There's over 60 flavors, or you can create your own. Not just sodas, they also have iced teas and energy drinks. Here at the Proof House, we make egg cream sodas all the time. Some other facts to consider here: there's no electricity, no more wasted bottles and cans, and the most important thing is that it tastes great. Keep in mind, too, this is a perfect family present for Christmas, or, hey, just surprise the family with something great. Also, for a limited time, there's free shipping, so go to Freedomizerradio.com and look for the SodaStream link, and I hope you check out the product. That's SodaStream right on Freedomizerradio.com.
Tune in each Thursday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Debbie Brooke, founder of Homeopathy World Community on Freedomizer Radio, talks about stress management and homeopathy. Get healthy with energy medicine.
Hey, Freedomists, join me, Proof Negative, weeknights, 9 p.m. to midnight Eastern, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific, as we fight the New World Order together, right here on Freedomizer Radio, your exclusive home of the Proof Negative Show.
C is for cookie, and that's good enough for me. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Saturdays. I love you, Miss Cookie. Join Cookie and me on See the Power in You.
You're listening to Freedomizer Radio at freedomizerradio.com. Join us in the chat room. You can also listen and participate by calling 347-324-3704. Like Freedomizer Radio on Facebook, and follow Libby Gadsen on Facebook. We're back.
Well, thank you, Mary Lou, and I'm Libby Gadsen. Welcome to the program, everybody. This is Gadsden Rising, and our special guest today is Brian Kelly and Seraph, and we're talking about, well, first of all, y'all have you're the co-author, Brian, of the American Kabuki blog. Tell me about that. What is that about?
First of all, it's americankabuki.blogspot.com if anybody wants to go out and check it out. So the American Kabuki blog was started in February of 2012, and I wasn't actually part of the starting. American Kabuki himself, that's his alias, by the way, he started it in February to keep track of all of the corporate banker resignations. There was a time toward the end of February where chief-level banking officers, COO and CEO caliber from around the world were either quitting, retiring, disappearing, or dying in mass numbers. And over the course of about a 2 or 3 month time period, it was about February until maybe June or July, he had to stop keeping track because there were so many. I believe there's 650 some odd chief-level bankers around the world. And so, he knew that there was something going on, so he started the blog, and that particular exposure created a very popular forum for his blog to kind of be a expose for truth-related articles pertaining to any, alternative media type information. And so in a year, he's got about 7.4, I think it is now, million hits to the blog site.
Wow.
So what we found out later, when we finally got in touch with Heather and One People's Public Trust, is, first of all, everything is related. All the dots of data connect in some way. Just like, every person and animal and all of existence are all part of the same cosmic fabric. All the data that's unfolding in the financial world, with big banks, big businesses, corporations, governments, it's all connected in some way, shape, or form. So what we found out when we came into contact with Heather is that the reason all these bankers were jumping ship or disappearing or what have you was because of the activity and the actions that the One People's Public Trust was doing behind the scenes. So that's something that we found out later, and it was a big aha moment for us. And that's kind of how the whole blog got started. I got involved when it was in about September. I sent an inside scoop to American Kabuki in regards to the school shooting, the movie theater shooting with James Holmes in Colorado, and he put the story that I sent him in on his blog. I had some inside info, so we got into contact that way. And then a couple months later, I did an interview with an insider named Poof. You may or may not be familiar with Poof's work. I think he's been putting out weekly updates for going on 10 years now. And,
wow.
And he's a trustworthy source of information because a lot of the things that he reports come to fruition. So I did an interview with this guy, and I had a whole series of questions that because I've been following all this information, ever since I read David Wilcock's Financial Tyranny piece at the end of 2011. So, once you get a taste of truth, there's no going back. You just want more and more and more. And so when I saw the opportunity to do a consultation with this Poof gentleman, I recorded a call, and I sent it to American Kabuki. We reached out to Poof and asked if we could release it on the blog, and he said, some of the information that he shared with me in private was way too sensitive to go public at the time because it could mess up certain plans that were unfolding behind the scenes of the good guys making advances on, bringing all this, bringing everything that we're doing now out into the open. So he held us off for about 2 months. And so around, I believe, October, he said, okay, you can publish it this week. And we put it out on the blog, and it just went viral. I mean, it got like 9,000 or 10,000 hits in a couple hours, and so we got an email from Poof that said that we made some people in Hong Kong very angry, and we needed to pull it offline, like now, or else they were going to be banging down our door and dropping lawsuits and God only knows what. It just sounded dangerous. And so we pulled it instantly. But at that time, American Kabuki asked me if I wanted to come participate with this blog to do interviews and podcasts. So that's kind of how I got involved with the blog. But fast forward to December 26th, when we spoke about it earlier, when Heather got into contact with us, the guy that supposedly was in Hong Kong, a guy by the name of General Wong, his agenda is what came out, and it helped the One People's Public Trust get him out of the way so they could make further progress. So she was emailing us to thank us. She had no intention of that being the catalyst that would bring all the information out to explode into the public like it has. But, everything happens for a reason. So it just happened to be that day where, everything started unfolding, and it's just been like a roller coaster ride ever since.
Wow.
And, it's been pretty surreal, but exciting to be a part of, to say the least.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that's really interesting about the Poof story.
Yeah, it is.
Because I remember when that came out, your interview with him, and I listened to about half of it, and then I think it was late at night, and I was kind of tired, and so I fell asleep, and the next morning I'm like, oh, it's gone.
Yeah, we had to pull it pretty quick. I had a whole series of questions. I figured there's no way he's going to answer all these questions. They're just really sensitive. And I told him, I said, hey, I got a lot of questions here for you. I said, if you can't answer them, just let me know. I'll totally understand. He said, just ask him, man. It's kind of one of those kind of deals. And so I asked him, and he answered everything that I had. I couldn't believe it. So I instantly knew, man, this is information that needs to get out because it's going to bring a lot of comfort to those that are still buying into the whole doom and gloom World War III timeline where everything just breaks out into corruption and there's going to be civil war and bloodshed. I wanted that to go out because that distinguished those assumptions that we're still on that road to New World Order, if you will. And so I was that's why I was so passionate in getting it out there. And it had a huge ripple. I mean, it got out for long enough for it to make a big impact, and it hasn't. We pulled it, and we haven't made it live again since, but we're kind of well beyond that point now. A lot of that stuff now is out in the open, but at the time it was it was pretty delicate.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm reading about the site, and you have how you can help article here, and reader article contributions are welcome for the audience. And I just want to let them know that I'm going to read from the blog that this blog was founded on the concept that all of us are smarter than just one of us, and that some of the best posts have come from the readers' research, and that you welcome all articles with good evidence and documentation about banking fraud, banking scandals, financial changes, and even about healing technologies, UFOs, and consciousness studies. And I think that all does come together because one of the things that we are suffering from is a degradation of our consciousness, and through the mass media, through advertising, through constant brainwashing from birth about products and how we should live and what we should eat, and just the fact that we think that we have to use money. Whereas when you think about it, why shouldn't we have the choice not to use money?
Yeah. Seraph made a really good point at the beginning of this call, that he kind of moves forward under the idea that he knows nothing, because it's so true. We've been so lied to throughout our existence that it's been one of the biggest weapons to use against us is keep us in the dark of who we really are, and we won't ask questions, and we'll be happy with living the lives of it's funny to say that we're free. We're anything but free. We're slaves to the system, but we inside of all of us have the ability to break out from that freedom when we raise our awareness and we realize that we have the ability at any moment to take the shackles off our ankles and walk like a free man or a free woman. And so, we say it all the time, you can take the people out of slavery, but it's what takes the longest is taking slavery out of the people. Because once, there's when people start to wake up of who we really are and how we got here, I mean, those are concepts that have they'll change the landscape of the way we live our lives in the twinkling of an eye. And I don't have all the answers, just like nobody walking the earth right now has all the answers. But I have an open heart and an open mind to want to learn more, and so we're on the cusp of some serious, monumental, major, ridiculously cosmic shifts in the way that we operate as individuals and the way that we operate collectively with one another. And, the ancients called this time 2012. You go back and you read, the Mayans and the Hopis and the Egyptians and all these societies that had nothing to do with each other. There was no texting or email or TV to watch. They all pointed to this time in evolution as a time of great change. And the ancients called it the shift of the ages. And we're going through this shift. A lot of people thought it was going to be a cosmic, December 21st thing. And there was a major energy shift that happened on December 21st, but but not a lot of people could actually see it. So what we're going through now is this process of bringing the truth out into the light for all to see. And so there's what Heather calls absolute data, which is bring all the information out into the open, put it on the table, and let the people decide what they want to do with it, whether or not it resonates, and then we all have the ability to be and do as we please and live our lives the way that we feel, that we feel inspired to do so. So this is the most exciting time to be alive on a deeper, higher self level. We all chose to be here to experience this all together, and the excitement that comes from that, I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal because we're the luckiest people in the history of humanity to be alive at this time, to be experiencing this as it's unfolding.
Wow.
Well, I think you're right. It's in the sense that we have so much access now to knowledge that isn't barred from us, whereas it was before. And doors are opening toward avenues of better understanding of exactly what you said, who we are, how we came to be here, and why we're here. And it can really go very, very, very far beyond what our imaginations can conceive of, because we've been so trained to think otherwise. And what I said before the break was I just seen a program about people working in Dubai for these mega corporations, and they make the cars, the big Fords and all the big trucks that people use in the United States and everything. These workers come from Bangladesh and India. They work for $170 a month, and they work 12 hours a day. And they don't have any, their passports are taken from them by the corporations. They sleep in bunkers, and they have very, very basic conditions. But these are the products that Americans and other so-called civilized countries are using. They're being produced by slaves, essentially. So this is. Anyone want to jump in here?
Yeah, I just want to.
Seraph, that's you, my man.
From this perspective, let's just look at here in America. The people who work at, say, a Ford dealership, they probably can't afford the car at the company they work. Or the people who work to build Fords or build Chevrolets or build even the foreign cars that are built in this country. If you there's something wrong with a system where you work somewhere and don't make enough money to buy what you sell or buy where you work. Henry Ford made that very clear. Henry Ford made that clear when he first started his automobile manufacturing company. You don't have a real good business if the people you work for can't afford your product. That's just the way it is. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, who is going to build the better car? The guy who makes $8 an hour and works 12 hours a day, has no health insurance, no time off, and he's building a truck that's supposed to be high quality, or the guy who drives that same vehicle every day. He's going to have more pride in it, especially when he knows that I'm making a really good living doing what I do. So, you know, it's all relative, of course. It's always relative. I mean, there is no one in America, I don't care how poor and impoverished they think they are, that can complain if they ever spent one day in a slum in Bangladesh. They can't. They can't talk to me about poor. It's just like people here in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, who say, "Man, I live in a really bad neighborhood." I'm like, "Dude, really? You live in Minneapolis? You know what I mean? It's not like you're in, you know, Mississippi. You know, where people live in lean-tos. You know, so it's always relative. But still, the thing that makes OPPT of great importance in my life is the fact that from the gentleman who's sitting in his office cubicle right now who makes $350,000 a year, he gets a bonus of $20,000 for Christmas. He has a company car, a company cell. He has all that. But he also has a wife, 2 children in private school. He has all the trappings, and he has bought into that system to the point he is 2 checks away from losing his stuff. From that guy all the way to the 3-year-old child lying on the desert floor in Somalia about 3 hours from dying of hunger. That scope, from that child to that guy, OPPT is established to benefit each and every human in that spectrum. The problem with a lot of people's programs and systems, look, I'm not saying that OPPT is the way. I believe freedom is like a mountain, and there's hundreds of thousands of roads leading up that mountain. Some will get you there a little faster, but they all are going to the same end, so they're all good. But what I like about OPPT is a lot of people's ideas of remedy are specific to specific things. When I lost my house in 2007, I had a group of people trying to show me how to eliminate that foreclosure via the magistrates and the post office and blah, blah, blah. But they never did anything of a holistic fashion, a manner whereby all humans were under the umbrella of truth, and all humans were being dealt with from one level down, creator, human. There's no middle sections, no middle conversations, no middle ground, no middle anything. Human, creator. And not necessarily just human, because OPPT is dealing from created to creator. There's nothing in the middle. So with that nothing in the middle, that means that no government, no principality, no hierarchy, no anything, no pope, no queen, no king, no serf, nothing is between creator and created. Everything under that was created by the created.
Well, there is a certain philosophy that we are the creator. That, and not to sound too grandiose here, but all of us are God in a sense, in that we are the part of the creation, the Creator, and so in the sense that we're part of the power. We've just been told that we're not, and we've been giving up that power, but we have that power.
Well, I wasn't going to go there, but that's exactly what I believe.
And that's why I was saying that. I thought I'll just jump in there and say it for you.
Ditto.
That's awesome.
We're all on the same page in that regard.
Exactly. We're all part of the process of, like like David Wilcock, the source field, the intelligent source field.
Right.
I believe that is the God that everybody speaks of. It's not a thing, not a person, place, or thing. We are all individuations, if you will, of the source.
Yeah.
Being.
And that's actually an illusion, our individuation.
It's an illusion.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah, because separation is the greatest illusion made by the Creator. So we, as sparks of creation, can find our way back to that oneness of all that is. Exactly. And that's the challenge. You know, the Creator created sparks of Himself so He can experience Himself, herself, itself, because it's all the same thing, the I am presence, through all of us. And so the biggest challenge for humanity is realizing that separation is an illusion and coming together to co-create in harmony and in unity. And you know, one of the integral parts of what the One People's Public Trust did, and Seraph was kind of getting there, was they created a framework that has commandeered or repossessed all of the value that has been stolen from humanity for hundreds of years, because it's human value. We're all the value, but they've plundered and pillaged all of the precious metals and gold and silver, and that value has been corralled back. If you go into any of the Federal Reserves, you're not going to find any gold in there. You might find tungsten that's painted with gold. You know, and if you liquidated it down, you can make a nice pair of earrings. But that's about it. So what's happening is one of the elements of the One People's Public Trust is called the CVAC. And CVAC is CVAC, stands for Creation's Value Asset Centers. And so the CVAC was developed to help to put the systems in place to redistribute the value of the world from the haves and give it back to the have-nots, or from the 0.5%. This is not 1%. It's like 0.1% of the people that really have had all this control. It's a very small group of people, I'm told, and bring that back to where we have the ability to redistribute that value for all to use, and for all to to gain from. Create a scenario where where poverty and hunger and all those things that that Seraph was just mentioning, the dying children in Somalia, will have the ability to create a means to an end to finally ridding the world. It's crazy that you have all these people with all this money and they're hoarding it while so many people are dying in the streets and going hungry, and these are all parts of the manipulation. There's cures for every major disease out there, every single one. We can cure ourselves, we just don't realize that we can yet because we believe that we can't. There's free energy devices that are available now that have the ability to pull the energy from the source field, from the ethers, to power houses in a box the size of a little mini refrigerator. We've talked to people that have actually gone inside of these factories that have seen these things in mass production, just waiting for the moment to where they can come out. So there's this huge orchestra of events that are all coming together behind the scenes right now. I don't know all of them. I've just only heard about some of them enough to keep me super excited. I'm a passionate person by nature. You can probably tell by the way I talk, but man, this stuff's exciting because we're right on the brink of having all of this data and information and technology and cures all coming out in the open for every man, woman, and child to benefit from that walks the face of God's green earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. There's technology. Well, I wouldn't call it technology, but there's basically natural remedies for most quote-unquote incurable diseases that people have to be hooked on big pharma pills forever and ever, and they don't get better. They just get worse. Whereas there are natural cures out there that can cure them easily without the agony they go through in taking chemotherapy or the other medications that people have to take for HIV or AIDS.
Yep. No money in the cure. The money's in the medication.
And I can speak to that in the sense that my mother passed away from cancer 5 years ago in late February. And here's what I believe. Two things. One, the body can cure itself. Mm-hmm. It was designed to cure itself. Now, all you have to do is give it the right stuff. All right? Right. Now, with respect to cancer, I mean, cancer's had cures for years and years and years and years and years, but there's no money in it. Now, once you eliminate the profit factor, you know, there's nothing wrong with owning stuff. There's nothing wrong with having stuff. There's nothing wrong with having as much stuff as you can pile into your house, because it's just stuff, all right?
Right.
But the problem is when you hoard so that someone else can't. It's the difference between being greedy and wanting to be abundant. Mm-hmm. Abundance comes without anyone else suffering. Greed is when I have to take from you in order for me to have. Mm-hmm. That's greed, and that's the bad move. Now, but I'm going to say something that some of the listeners won't like. You're not going to like it. I'm going to tell you up front.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
everything that we in this world are experiencing that we would call negative, bad, wrong, evil, whatever,
dark,
it's all our fault. And the reason why it's our fault is because I am you, you are me, we are one. Mm-hmm. We have allowed our own playing the game as if we don't know. We've allowed that to the degree that we've forgotten that we are all the same. We're all one. We're all one.
Well, the way I like to put it, Seraph, is I like to say that we can take responsibility. And we can start
the ability to respond. Exactly. So right now, we're not, OPPT, in my opinion, is not fighting anything. Mm-hmm. OPPT is not fighting against anything. Mm-hmm. All OPPT is doing is reminding us, in other words, turning our mind back on, reminding us of who we be. Mm-hmm. And once you know who you be, then you will do as you be, and then you will have as you do.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
The problem is we've been fighting the forces of evil. What do you mean? That means you're fighting against yourself. That's ridiculous.
Well, all it does is add energy to the evil, really.
This is why I love this guy, and I asked him to come on the show. And it's funny because, I mean, Seraph makes such a great point. You know, it's when you really step back and look at it, you know, Yogananda, he has a story where he talks about, you know, you go to the movie theater, right? Mm-hmm. And you're looking up at the screen, and you see all these you see all this, you know, these amazing lights and, you know, these amazing pictures and images and scenes. Well, all those things, whether it's a horror movie, an action movie, a drama, whatever it is, it all comes from the same source, which is that light and that projector that projects all those things. All those people on that screen are just actors, right? Yeah. But they're not. It's not what's really going on. It's hocus pocus, right? It's all coming from that light. Those are all colors that blend together that make those things. So don't focus on the screen. Focus on the light, and that light is what creates all of us. So all these, every single one of us, we're an actor. We're playing a role. We're playing a part in this cosmic picture show. Right, so these guys that you call them the cabal, call them the dark forces, call them the corporate elite, whatever you want to call them, they took on some of the hardest roles as actors in this cosmic play. They created the situation, the contrast for us to know ourselves as love. If we didn't know the darkest of the dark, we could never possibly know or understand or appreciate the lightest of the light. So we don't want to go out in the street and lynch these guys. We want to say, hey, you're miserable over there. Come over here. It's so much more fun. You know?
Brian,
and so that's what we're working on.
Brian, tell us the story that Heather told us about.
Okay, well we got to take a commercial break, guys, but we're going to get right back to the Cosmic Picture Show. I hate to do it, but I love that phrase, the Cosmic Picture Show. And so we're going to be right back. This is Gadsden Rising. I'm Libby Gadsen with our special guests, Brian Kelly and Seraph, and Lou Van Houten, our co-host and producer. We'll be right back.
Thank you for tuning in to Freedomizer Radio, where we have a 24/7 chat room where you can come and share what's going on in the world with people of like mind. Anything and everything against the New World Order. Dial 347-324-3704 to catch our live show. Beginning at 9 in the morning Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Friday till midnight, and 9 to 9 on Saturday and Sunday. Take us to the beach. Take us to the park. Take us on a walk with the dog. Only on Freedomizer Radio.
Antiwartees.com is to promote anti-war activism, unlocking minds and shattering paradigms. By purchasing one of these T-shirts, you become an anti-war activist. www.antiwartees.com, bringing peace and human rights to the mainstream. Buy it, wear it, become it. Anti-War Tees.
Hello everyone, Proof here again. I want to let you know about our brand new sponsor, Silver Leaf Tea. Now, as you guys know that have listened to me for years, I am a tea aficionado. I have hundreds of different flavors and styles at my house, and Silver Leaf has exactly the kind of stuff that I look for. I love loose tea, great antioxidants. I just love the taste of it, and this Silver Leaf has black, they have green, they have white, they have organic, great for hot tea and iced tea. Silver Leaf Tea, it's right on our website, freedomizerradio.com, and check it out and order it. Silver Leaf Tea.
Greetings, this is Blake the Eccentric, and I want to invite you to check out my new show on Freedomizer Radio, The Eccentric Perspective. It's sort of a red pill, blue pill, going down the rabbit hole kind of show, featuring outside-the-box politics, philosophy, and gonzo journalism. But be warned, with knowledge comes responsibility, and you might not see the world the same way again, as I will attempt to open your mind, speak to your common sense, and challenge your critical thinking skills. So please join me Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday from noon to 1:30 Pacific Time. Once again, that's Eccentric Perspective, only on Freedomizer Radio.
We are Critical Immunity with Larry and Renee. Our show will cover current events, national health news, nutrition, emergency preparedness, and organic farming, and various emblems and tools to thrive and survive. We hope you tune in and join in our discussion of health, liberty, preparedness, and survival. Join our hosts, Larry and Renee, with guest callers always welcome.
We know about the Gulf oil spill. We know about problems with voting. We know about environmental toxicity. We know that there are problems about the wars, that our government is not representing the people as we would wish them to represent us. But we also know that there are crystal clear solutions. I'm Patricia Springstead, and I'm heavily involved in making the world a better place.
Every day you try to brainwash people just to have things go your way.
Tricia Springstead on Freedomizer Radio. Crystal Clear Solutions.
Well, tell me what you gonna do. well runs dry.
You're listening to Freedomizer Radio at freedomizerradio.com. Join us in the chat room. You can also listen and participate by calling 347-324-3704. Like Freedomizer Radio on Facebook and follow Libby Gadsen on Facebook. We're back.
Well, thanks, Mary Lou, and this is Gadsden Rising. I'm Libby Gadsen. Our special guests today are Brian Kelly and Seraph, and we're talking about a lot of great stuff here. I think I wanted to just bring us back to the subject of the factories that Ford made, where he said, every man in this factory should be able to buy a car if he's working here, and now that's not the case. That people who work in factories can't buy the products that they're making. But one of the things that enables them to perhaps buy the products is a loan. And on your website here, American Kabuki, Heather made a interesting comment, and she said almost every loan, if not every loan, is fraud, and no loan was made that no debt could lawfully or legally exist. In other words, so the whole point is that in order to let workers buy the products, they can get loans. So I think it's another game that's being played by the powers that be, is to make loans imperative in order for people to afford the products that they're making.
And
it's not really a problem.
Yeah, go ahead, Mary.
I'm sorry.
Problem.
I was going to say, speaking of Henry Ford and speaking of banking, he has that quote, "It is well enough that people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system, for if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning."
Did you find that on my Facebook wall?
I just happen to know it.
Yeah, I posted
it.
that quote on the 28th of last month, so I'm looking at it on my Facebook wall as you're reading it, so synchronicity at its finest.
That is fantastic, yeah. That is definitely great.
You have to understand the loan is not the issue.
Mm-hmm.
If Brian called me tomorrow and said, "Hey, Seraph, I need $100. Can you loan it to me?" Sure. When are you going to pay it back? Next week. Cool, done. Boom. Send him $100. Loan it back. Send it back in a week. Done. Okay, that's cool. It's an exchange of energy. He didn't have enough energy. I gave him some. He gave me mine back. Okay? Cool. Symbiotic, no issue. The problem with bank loans is, A, they never loan you any money. That's the fraud from the very beginning. They never loan you any money.
Like
how many of you guys actually own a home, quote unquote, own a home right now?
Hardly anybody.
Well, I did, but I just sold it.
Okay. All right, well, that's perfect. You're a perfect example of my analogy. Okay, let's say, for instance, I bought it from you. Now, the way it's done in America is you go into in some states it's called a mortgage, some states it's called a deed of trust, whatever. But let's say I want to buy your house, and let's say you're selling your house for $100,000. We both agree, okay, I'll buy it for $100,000. You say, okay, cool, fine. So we meet at this office. I've gone through all the hoops, jumped through all the crap necessary for them to grace me with one of their loans. All right. Now, if I had gone into that office with the title company and the person is sitting across from me, and then you're sitting there with waiting to get your $100,000, all right? So the first thing they do is they slide in front of me a promissory note. And that note says, I, Seraph G.L., promise to pay $100,000 plus interest for 30 years for this property. All right. I say, yes, cool, sign, boom. The moment I put my name on that piece of paper, that loan officer gets up, grabs that piece of paper, and goes in another room. When that officer comes out of the room, they bring a check. They give it to you. At that point, your work is done. You get up and go where you need to go. All right. I'm still sitting there because the next thing they do is slide underneath my face a mortgage that gives the terms and conditions of the loan. When that person got up from the table and walked into the other room, what they did was they went in and they put in the paperwork that this guy, we got another sucker, here he is, he signed his name to the promissory note. That promissory note allowed that bank to immediately with my signature, create up to 1,000 times, at a minimum 100 times, the document that I signed. It basically was like a I don't know, but anyway, it's a marketable instrument. My signature was an instrument, all right. And when I signed
that, pyramid concept, basically.
Yeah, of course, it's worse than a pyramid. So I signed the paperwork for 100,000. The bank immediately took that paperwork and used it to monetize it 100 times. All right, so they've made $1 million, at least 100 times. They took $1 million from the Federal Reserve for my signature. Now, if it takes my signature for a bank to create money, why are they charging me after the fact? So in other words, if I go to you and say, look, I'm going to sign my name in this thing here, it's going to say $100,000, and from that signature you get $1 million, all right, then I should get my $100,000, which is basically 10% just for
actually $1 million is way more than $1 million. $100,000 is only 10 times of that for $1 million, so we're talking a lot more zeros.
Exactly.
Really, in actuality.
Yeah, it's like billions. All right?
What we're actually talking about, guys, is an ancient concept called usury. And what it does is it creates money out of thin air.
Yep.
And it was actually illegal for many centuries all over the world. It was understood as something that was basically evil and bad for people. Loans that were made free and clear without usury, which means interest and all the things we're talking about, were illegal. And now, of course, usury is accepted as something that is normal and natural. You know, if you make a loan even to a friend, even friends say, well, you know, you should be getting interest on your loan. You know, this is something that it has been very accepted. And I see that there's something that Heather has proposed here, and it's called a courtesy notice to your banks or your credit card providers, that you can actually tell them you're simply not going to be paying them anymore. And some people have been successful in sending these courtesy notices. Do you know more about this, guys?
Yeah, I posted a success. Well, I think there's been about 20 or 30,000 of them that have gone out so far.
Wow.
I sent one out for my car note with Chase. Anybody that knows Chase knows they're one of the dirtiest banks in the world. And essentially, you're not sending it to the bank. You're sending it to the representative that's contacting you trying to collect the debt. So it might be a telemarketer or what have you. So you do it with respect and candor, because they don't know, they have no idea of how dirty the people are they're working for. They're innocent bystanders in the whole process. So essentially what the courtesy notice does, it's addressed to them as individuals, and it's saying, basically here's what the One People's Public Trust is. Here's what it's done. Your boss has been foreclosed on, and you now have the liability to bring this information up the ladder and clear my debt, or else now you're going to be held liable, and I'm actually going to charge you. I'm going to assess a fee, and this is to you personally. It's not to your employer. So this accomplishes a couple of objectives. First of all, number one, it raises awareness. That guy is going to take it to his manager. It's an 11-page document. It says exactly what needs to be done. All the instructions are inside of it. That guy's going to bring it to his manager, who's going to bring it to his manager, who's probably going to bring it to his manager. And throughout that process, all those people inside are going to tell all the other people in there what they've read and what they found. And at that point, it's up to that person to follow the instructions or be held liable and be at penalty, some financial dollar amount that's all expressed in there at however many days that go by where they still try to collect a debt. I sent one in a week ago for my $11,000 car note. I was getting calls, telemarketer calls every day trying to collect. I'm just 1 month behind, not that big of a deal, but I did it for a purpose. I wanted to walk the walk instead of just talk the talk. I haven't gotten one single call about it yet from them calling to try to collect a debt, and that was probably about 10 days ago now. So I don't know if they cleared the debt or not, but it got to the guy. It's really funny, actually, when I asked him. I was like, hey, I need to send you some information that's going to clear all this up very quickly. Can I get your last name? And he's like, oh, well, here, take my employee number. And I said, no, I need to address this to you. I'm going to send something in. And he goes, well, hold on one second. He put me on like 4-minute hold. And he comes back and he goes, well, what is it? We just need you to make your payment. I go, trust me, I have no intention of letting this stretch on any longer than it already has. We share the same goal. We want to just put this to an end. So I am putting this in an envelope right now. I'm sending it to you. It's going to take care of everything. Okay, well, here's my last name, and here's my local address and where to send it to. Boom. Plopped it in there, got a witness to sign it, sent it in, haven't heard anything back since.
Wow.
This is great
I
information.
had the same situation happen to me. And I did it just like Brian said he just did it. As a matter of fact, when I talked to Brian, he told me the exact story, and I said, I'm going to use those same words. I'm going to be very light and very airy about it, and when it gets done, I'm going to get a name. And the woman gave me her name, and then she put me on hold, and the manager shows up on the phone. And he's like, hi, my name's Dave. What's going on here? Are you here to make a payment? I said, no, Dave, here's what I'm doing. I'm going to send you guys some information, and we'll clear this whole thing up. Well, we don't need you to send anything in the mail. You can make the payment. I said, well, that's not. Trust me, when this is all done, you guys won't ever have to call me. I won't have to call you. It'll all be done. And he said, so are you going to make a payment? He was trying to get me to contract with him verbally by saying, yes, I'm calling to make a payment. No, I'm not. So I sent mine in yesterday. And look, the courtesy notice is not designed for me to get paid. This courtesy notice is exactly that. It's a courtesy to the human being on the other end of the phone or on the other end of that paperwork to let them know. Now, before you go any further, I think it's fair to warn you that you can't hide behind that company that you work for, because that no longer exists. This is between you and me, partner. and if you approach me like you're approaching me right now again, I'm going to send you another one as another warning. And then I might send you one more just to be nice. But the fourth one is going to be a lien against you, your home, your property, whatever you own. And then, even then, if they keep moving forward, it's just going into the energetic accounting record. Because all that's going on right now is being tabulated. And that tabulation is what's going to determine where you stand in this system when the CVACs are up and the new Treasury is implemented.
Speaking of the Treasury, I've heard that the new Treasury Secretary knows about a lot of this. Is that right? Sorry to get off the subject, but
he might. Who cares? He's foreclosed on and working against a foreclosed corporation. What difference does it make? You know what I mean? I mean, does it matter that he knows anything? He could be Bozo the Clown. What difference does it make?
Yeah, everybody that you see on TV that's part of the so-called government are just puppets up there with strings being pulled and going about their business, making it look like everything's all copacetic when it's anything but. So, you know, we have people that we have a contact that's I'm not going to name him by name, but he's inside the Oval Office letting us know every move of what's going on from behind the scenes. Not that it matters. It's really, it doesn't matter. I've seen email transcription back and forth with this guy. It doesn't matter, but it's nice to know what they're talking about in there. So really, it's all just it's on their end. I mean, it's all just a game, and you know, there's some people up there that are still fighting tooth and nail against it all, but everything at this point has been done. It's all inevitable. There's no moves that need to be made. There's no, we got this goal, and if we don't hit our target, you know, this whole thing falls apart, blah, on all that. That's all done. So we're this house of cards, I mean, it's like a little toothpick model home. And that little toothpick that holds up the whole thing is just fighting for dear life. I don't want to break because the whole thing's going to come tumbling down. Well, it's going to break no matter what. It's not a matter of if anymore. It's just a matter of when. It's all out in the open for everybody to see. I think that's we're right there on the cusp of that right now.
Wow.
And what makes me sad, what makes me really sad, and I've gotten to that place, I guess it's a growth process, but what makes me really sad is every human on the planet has the choice to make.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to go this direction, which is, as they've said on television before, the way of being on the right side of history, or are you going to continue to go to the left, which is the wrong side of history? Now, the very people that we're discussing are no different than you and I. If Barack Obama or John Boehner was to knock on my door right now, I would view them no differently than the guy next door coming over to check to make sure my porch light is on. Because they are us. There's no difference in these people. They can't stay. And limited liability is a corporate term that eliminates your full responsibility for your action. That's all gone. All gone. So it puts us all in a 100% full liability and personal responsibility position. Some people don't like that. Some people don't like it. I prefer it because it's on the side of freedom. And if it's on the side of freedom, I'm for it. It's going to be a little tough a little bit. Some people are going to struggle, but that's part of the deal. It's part of the deal. Just understand that there's nothing about what's going on right now that you need to fear. The fear element is taken out. That's done. Because everything's done. We don't have to do anything. You don't have to. Brian and I filed those courtesy notices to have a little fun. That's basically it. And alert a couple of people as to what's really going on. But we don't have to file anything. Nobody has had to file anything. You filed because you're trying to stop something that's happened to you right this moment. But the deal is done. It was done December 25th when they first announced it. It was done then. And just like Brian said with electricity, my favorite analogy is, say you're watering your garden, you got a 50-yard water hose, and you're at the end of the hose, and you're watering, and it's spraying, and everything's going great, and somebody sneaks behind you and turns the spigot off. All right? The pressure slowly stops, but you still got a little bit of energy left in that hose and a little bit of water. That's where they are right now. And to me, from a three-dimensional standpoint, when the whole deal falls apart is the first time all the employees' checks start bouncing. They're already using a different currency in the Bank of International Settlements. They're not even using the currency that we use because they know it's done. They know it. But they can't very well just say it's done. That's the reason why the United States government, the foreclosed previous artist formerly known as the United States government, the reason why that hasn't done anything since December 25th other than have a really big party for the corporate president, that's all they've done since December 25th. Think about it for a minute. They haven't done anything, forward or backwards, since Christmas. Not a thing. They talked about a bunch of stuff. They talked about fiscal cliffs and you know, sequestering. What? What does any of that mean? It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a game. They know it's done. And all these people have to make a decision. Has Barack Obama made a decision one way or the other? Who cares? Who cares? It doesn't really matter. Because right now, his inaction is a decision. He's known all this stuff for years, what the problem is. He's been alerted by several people from different factions as to what is really going on. But you have to make a decision. You have to stand up. And I stated on Facebook just today, I would rather stand for freedom and be totally wrong in the way I go about it than to be a slave who's right.
Amen. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time, but thank y'all so much for coming on the show, Brian and Seraph. It's been awesome. And
thank you.
This
I
is
agree.
Gadsden
It has
Rising.
been fabulous.
Yeah, it's been awesome. And I'm Mary Lou Van Houten, co-host and producer, and Libby Gadsen is our host. And thank y'all so much, and we'd love to have y'all on again if y'all want to come on.
Absolutely.
I'd love to.
Okay.
Absolutely. Hey, next time we'll talk about the spiritual aspect of all this and where we're headed and what we have to look forward to. That's what I'm focused on at this point.
Oh, I would love that. I would love it. That would be great.
Both of us. Mary Lou and I are on the same page with y'all. That's for sure.
Well, thank y'all so much.
Okay, well, and until next time, this is Gadsden Rising. I'm Libby Gadsen, and we'll talk again tomorrow, same time, same place. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Thanks, ladies. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You know the Constitution like the back of your hand. You've read books, listened to podcasts, attended lectures, surfed websites, and watched videos. You've made liberty your life's goal, but something seems to be missing.
Hi, this is Mary Lou Van Houten, co-host and producer of Gadsden Rising on FreedomizerRadio.com. Join host Libby Gadsen and me every Monday through Thursday from 4:30 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time as we talk with cutting-edge guests about the truth of a variety of topics. We are 100% free speech. Gadsden Rising on Freedomizer Radio, because you can handle the truth. Hi, Libby.
Well, hello, Mary Lou, and welcome everybody to Gadsden Rising. And I'm Libby Gadsen, and today's our special guest is Brian Kelly and Seraph, and Mary Lou Van Houten is our co-host and producer. And Mary Lou, please tell the audience about our guest today.
Brian is the co-author of the American Kabuki blog. He's been helping to spread the message of the One People's Public Trust, otherwise known as the OPPT, since the movement became public on December 26, 2012. Along with Lisa Harrison, Chris Hales, and Bob Wright, he hosts the OPPT-IN blog talk radio show on Freedom Reigns on Monday nights at 1 p.m. Pacific, as well as the Collective Imagination show on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific to share the latest updates and developments of the One People's Public Trust. Thank y'all so much for coming on the show. It's great to have y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks.
And I see you have your own show as well, Brian, Freedom Reigns.
Well, Freedom Reigns, we took over from Santos Bonacci a few weeks ago. We had over 106,000 people live on our first debut, and we're up over about 275,000 live people and into the millions, into the archives, which airs every Monday night. We're actually doing one tonight, and it starts at 4 o'clock. Yeah, so it's pretty exciting.
Wow.
Yeah, very. And where is it coming out of? California or?
Well, we're all over the place. We have, for as far as the people that are on every week, I'm in San Diego. Lisa Harrison is out in Australia. Chris Hales is in the UK, and then Bob is in Philadelphia, and Seraph is Minnesota. Seraph, where you at, my man? Minnesota. So we're all over the map. So it's Mondays for some of us, Tuesdays for others. So it's interesting when we have to talk offline because we have to coordinate all of our time schedules. But it's been a blast.
Yeah, we did the same thing because Libby's over in Europe and I'm in Atlanta, and y'all are you're in California, Brian, and so Seraph's in the Midwest. So
yeah, I know we were different.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of figured you were from Atlanta because I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, and I can spot a southern accent a mile away, and it didn't take long to spot that one.
I didn't realize how southern I sounded until I got on the radio.
These UCC filings, and it was overnight that we went from a few people knowing about it in the public eye to now, this all started on the 26th of December. If you were to Google One People's Public Trust, you might get 1,000 responses. Now it's up over 1 million, and it's only been just a little over 2 months. I mean, I'm on 5 radio interviews this week alone.
Wow.
Another one later today. So that's where we're at. Seraph got involved about a month ago, and he's part of the radio team, and that's why I invited him to be here on the call with us, because he got a a much more extensive understanding of the background of the logistics of the legal aspect of all these things, because he's been involved in that part of the process longer than I have.
Wow.
Okay. And so, how did you start in the process, Sarah?
It was, you know how sometimes when you're online a lot, you find yourself involved in something, and then you look back and say, well, how did I even get connected to this?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how it happened. I don't remember to this day how I came across all of this, but when I started researching it, I go from a premise that I don't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
And once I establish that in my mind, then whenever somebody brings something to me and puts it on in front of me to look at the data, I automatically suspend any disbelief. Because the only way I can say, well, that's not true or that's not right, I would have to know that. And if I choose to not know anything, then that means I have to research it in order to at least get an understanding of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also, I've been notorious in my life for being able to get all the way to the horse's mouth whenever somebody brings something up. So I didn't stop searching and looking until I had a 2.5-hour conversation with Heather.
Wow.
So once I got to that point, I had already pretty much convinced myself that, yes, this is at the very least legitimate. And then after a 2.5-hour conversation with Heather and realizing that this wasn't just about paperwork, it wasn't just about the UCC, this has a multidimensional aspect that is more far-reaching than I even know at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I call Heather my little sister. We're like brother and sister now, and when somebody, like, she was on a radio talk show and there was a person who was basically harassing her on the call, and I felt like flying in and choking her out because that's just who I am. I took the name Seraph. That's my actual name. I technically changed my name to Seraph G.L. Less than a month ago, and it had everything to do with the One People's Public Trust. And Seraph is not technically my first name. Seraph is a title, not of nobility, but like my job, like lieutenant or sergeant or plumber or firefighter. It's the name of an individual seraphim, which is an angelic being that is a guardian. And I'm Seraph, guardian of that which matters most. And what matters most to me is freedom. Everything emanates from that. If you're not free, then you really can't do anything. The sad part about our nation in America is we have a false sense of freedom. It doesn't exist at all. We're actually more enslaved than a lot of countries that we call third world. And it's based on that there's no slave like the one that doesn't know they've got shackles.
Oh, absolutely.
And also coming from my ethnic background being that of so-called blacks, African Americans, if you will. I don't like either title, but because that's governmental as well. But that's a whole other talk show. But coming from that place alone, I understand the governmental reach of how they can enslave you. And they started from birth. And it just keeps going. And the sad part about the enslavement in our country of America is the ones erroneously known as white people. A lot of them are under the impression that they don't know slavery. They have no concept of it. But each human being born in the country of the United States of America is a slave at birth. And we are used like ever-ready batteries. They use us and they suck up our potential energy from birth, and then they suck our energy all the way through life. And everything about it is done via the UCC. So
now,
I had my home
tell us
workload.
what the UCC is.
I'm sorry.
What was the question?
For our audience, Seraph, tell us what the UCC is.
Well, the UCC is titled the Uniform Commercial Code. The UCC was established so that every nation, country, state on the planet would have a uniform.
Essentially what they did was they used Heather's knowledge of law and of the UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code, to go in and back engineer the systems that were created for deception to turn those very systems back onto the perpetrators and the creators that developed them to control and manipulate the masses, the world, really. And so they went in and they did a set of UCC filings that essentially foreclosed on the United Nations, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the Hague, the BIS, or the Bank for International Settlements, and the Holy See, and all corporations, really. And so the way that the UCC law is structured is that any claim that is made, in order for it to stand as law, as registered, or to be rejected, it has to be rebutted. So when a claim is made and it goes unrebutted, that means it stands as law. And so these particular set of UCC filings were unrebutted because they're unrebuttable. So that's kind of where the whole thing started. So throughout the course of 2012, the One People's Public Trust, was formed, and we're working behind the scenes to essentially take care of all the things that they needed to take care of in the background in order for their work and everything that they did with the UCC to be made public and to basically unravel all of the corruption and bring that out into the light. So we were contacted, myself, American Kabuki, and a couple others, on December 26th because we put out on the blogs, we were told by Heather during a series of emails that went back and forth that a blog post that we put out with an interview with an insider that I actually did was able to expose some agendas of some supposed good guys that were working on the good guy side to try to bring about all this change. It exposed their greedy agendas because really when you trace this back to the source, there's been a resistance movement that's been playing out behind the scenes for a very long time. Some can trace it back to the very early 1900s, after the Federal Reserve was formed.
Wow.
And so, when all this stuff came out to the forefront, all of a sudden a lot of information started rolling out. And when we got into contact with Heather, we started, blogging. It's more fun. We have boring accents out here in California, so.
Well, it sounds like you have a variety of accents, Australian, and that's quite an interesting accent too.
It's an eclectic group.
And how did you all get together?
So, wow, that's a pretty loaded question because it's a really long story. Books will be written about it someday. But we'll give you the Cliff Notes version. Why don't we start there?
Yeah, well, we like long stories. It's okay.
Well, we have an hour and a half tonight, right?
That's right.
Exactly.
Well, Seraph and I both like to talk, so we could run this 3 hours if we needed to. But we'll do our best
to dial it back a little bit myself right now. So
we'll go back and forth, my man, because we're both working toward the same cause. The One People's Public Trust. If you Google it today and you put quotations around it to get rid of all the other junk that'll come up when you all the other things that have one or people's or public or trust, comes out at 1.23 million responses, websites to go to in less than a second. So it goes to show how big the movement is. The trustees came together. Heather Ann Tucci-Giroff is one of the trustees of One People's Public Trust. She was a bar licensed attorney for 20 years and had a deep background in working in banking and a lot of many years of experience in working in UCC law. And throughout those years of being in that industry and rubbing shoulders, amidst all the corruption that we all know has plagued the banking and financial and judicial parts of the world, not just this country, she got sick of it, and she realized that she could either keep staying in it, or she could dedicate her life to helping to create a solution. So back during, I think it was the end of 2009, she decided to let her home go into foreclosure so she could track the corruption via the paper and the money back to the source, the sources that were creating it. And she wrote up a report about it called the Paradigm Report, and it's all over the Internet to be read. But during the course of that research, the corruption that was uncovered was so thick, and there was so much of it, that the determination that was made was that the only way to fix it was to cancel out the systems that created it from the root or from the prime of their creation. So